They betrayed you once, and your mind never went back to being the same again. And the truth is, you didn't just lose trust. You gained something far more permanent. At first, it felt like confusion, like something didn't add up, like a story you believed in suddenly changed its tone without warning. You replayed everything in your head, the conversations, the silence, the small moments you ignored because they didn't feel big enough to matter. But now, they matter more than anything, because betrayal doesn't just happen in one moment. It happens in realization, and realization always comes late. You start noticing things you never saw before, patterns you ignored, intuition you silenced, emotional signals you dismissed. And somewhere in that painful awareness, your mind begins to change, not instantly, not loudly, but quietly, permanently, because betrayal doesn't just hurt you, it trains you. It teaches your mind how to recognize what your heart refused to see. And that is the hidden part no one talks about. You think you are suffering because of what they did. But in reality, your mind is learning how to never be the same again. And once this learning begins, you cannot unlearn it. So the real question is not what they did to you, but what your mind became because of it. And that is where this story begins. Betrayal doesn't destroy trust. It rewrites how your trust works. There is a moment after betrayal that feels almost invisible, but it changes everything. It is not the argument. It is not the confession. It is not even the ending. It is the internal shift. The moment your mind quietly says, "Something is not safe here anymore." Before that moment, you were open. You gave benefit of doubt. You explained away inconsistencies with hope. But after betrayal, your mind becomes different. It begins to observe more than it assumes. You start reading tone instead of words. You start noticing pauses instead of promises. You start remembering patterns instead of apologies. And this is not overthinking. It is adaptation, because your brain is designed to prevent repeated pain. Carl Jung described how the unconscious mind stores emotional imprints that influence future perception long after conscious decisions change. And that is exactly what happens here. Your conscious mind says, "I'm fine," but your unconscious mind says, "Never ignore this again." And slowly, trust changes shape. It doesn't disappear. It becomes selective, harder to give, harder to earn, harder to lose. Betrayal doesn't end trust. It evolves it into awareness. After betrayal, your silence becomes louder than their words. Something subtle happens after you've been betrayed once. You stop reacting the same way, not because you stopped feeling, but because your mind started detecting more than you consciously notice. You begin to sense emotional distance before it is spoken. You feel inconsistency before it is explained. You recognize shifts in energy before they become obvious. It's like your inner world developed a radar. And at first you don't trust it. You call it overthinking. You call it anxiety. You call it being too sensitive. But in reality, it is experience speaking through awareness, because pain sharpens perception. It forces your mind to look beyond surface-level behavior and into patterns. This is why people who have been betrayed often say, "I just knew something was wrong. I just ignored it." That knowing was never random. It was your mind collecting signals your emotions refused to process at the time. Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling to what we want to believe rather than what is actually present. And that is exactly where your learning begins, because now you don't just see people, you analyze behavior. You don't just hear words, you feel intent. And this change is irreversible, not because you became suspicious, but because you became aware. Betrayal builds an emotional radar that protects you from repeating the same blindness twice. What broke you wasn't just betrayal. It was the end of who you used to be before it. There is a stage after betrayal that most people cannot explain. You don't feel angry all the time anymore. You don't feel shocked anymore, but something still feels missing. And that missing is not them. It is your innocence. The version of you that believed love was always honest. The version of you that thought loyalty was natural. The version of you that assumed people meant what they said. That version doesn't disappear suddenly. It fades, quietly, through experience. And you only notice it when you try to trust again, because now there is a pause, a hesitation, a question, a second thought that wasn't there before. And that is where identity shifts. You are no longer the person who trusts blindly, but you are also not yet the person who trusts wisely. You are in between. And that in-between space feels uncomfortable because it is unfamiliar. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke about transformation as something that requires the destruction of old interpretations of self before new strength can emerge. And that is exactly what betrayal does. It doesn't just hurt you. It removes the version of you that could be hurt so easily. And what remains is someone more cautious, more observant, more conscious, but also more awake. Betrayal ends innocence, but begins awareness. You thought betrayal weakened you, but it actually trained your mind to never collapse the same way again. There is a quiet truth that only becomes visible with time. You don't notice it while you are hurting. You only notice it when you are calm again. One day, something happens that would have destroyed you before. A message, a memory, a reminder of them. A situation that once would have pulled you back into emotional chaos. But this time, you don't collapse. You pause, you observe, and then you move forward. That is when you realize something has changed. Not your circumstances, not the past, but you. Your mind has been reshaped. Stronger boundaries, sharper perception, calmer responses. Not because you chose it consciously, but because experience forced it into you. Betrayal, in its deepest form, is not just emotional pain. It is mental restructuring. It teaches your mind what to ignore, what to question, what to never repeat. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And after betrayal, you finally begin to understand what that means in real life, because strength is no longer theoretical. It is lived. It is the ability to stay calm where you once broke down, to think clearly where you once spiraled, to walk away where you once stayed, and slowly, something powerful happens inside you. You stop seeing betrayal as loss and start seeing it as training, not because it didn't hurt, but because it changed how your mind responds to life itself. Betrayal doesn't just wound you, it rebuilds your mind into something stronger than before. So if you are still healing right now, don't rush yourself, because what feels like emotional damage today might become your strongest version tomorrow. And one day you will understand, they didn't just betray you once, they changed your mind forever.